Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to take a look at the second figure of my recent haul that I received from didjenkins.com, and this one is a figure that I've been after for quite a while but just somehow never got a hold of. This is the Giant Sloth from Safari LTD. I have been drawn to this figure for quite a while because it was really nice looking. I believe it was initially actually released quite a few years ago, then retired, and then they brought it back now. I could be wrong on those facts, but I'm pretty sure that's exactly what had gone on. And ever since it had been brought back, I've been just kind of aching to get a hold of it, but did not have the chance previously. Luckily now we do have the opportunity to take a look at this because it's actually a figure of a species that I've never had in my collection. I don't believe I have any other giant sloths in my collection, so I really did want to add one. And if you're going to add one, why not add it from Safari LTD, because they produce some of the absolute best prehistoric creature figures on the planet. So I am beyond excited to take a look at this figure. I've waited a very long time to get this, so let's go ahead and take a closer look at it right now. So starting up at the head sculpt, look how beautiful the head sculpt is. You can really get a sense of the bone structure of the skull of the giant sloth quite wonderfully all over the place. You can see the cheekbone there, and the entire head sculpt looks fantastic. I really think that they just nailed it. Beautifully sculpted out ears there. They've included a really nice dark wash all over. You can see it nicely inside the ears, but also throughout the face. That helps to bring out the detailing of the brown that they've used, and also the detailing of the sculpt in general. I think it looks fantastic using that wash. You can see the eyes are painted really nicely, beautifully glossed as well, giving them a very realistic shine. Same goes for this eye. It's almost so shiny that the light glistening off of it makes it hard for my camera to pick it up, but it looks great, looks very realistic. And on top of that, the shine and gloss in the inside of the mouth is just off the charts. Perfect. Look at how realistic that looks. Fantastic work done on the part of Safari LTD when it comes to the glossing of the inside of the mouth and the eyes, giving this such an incredibly realistic appearance. I am absolutely in love with this figure already. You can see that the mouth in general is sculpted really nicely, along with the nose up here on the top of the snout here. You can see the inside of the nostrils there are painted with a pinkish color, giving it a very nice realistic coloration. You can see that the inside of the mouth, as far as the tongue goes, it looks to be sculpted really well, and so does the detailing on the upper part of the jaw, which you can see really nicely right there. So on top of having an incredible gloss, the overall sculpt work is beautifully done also. You see on the underside of the mouth, the underside of the lower jaw, there's very nicely sculpted detail. As we move down the body, you can see the really nice scruffy hair in the neck right there. You can see the shoulder blade protruding from the skin. As we take a look at the arm here, we run down the length of the arm. You can almost get a sense of the bone structure of the arm hidden underneath the fur there. That looks really cool. You can also see some fur kind of hanging off the body right there a little bit, kind of some saggy fur. As we come around to the front, you can see the hands are sculpted beautifully, and once again that dark wash helps to really bring out the detailing of this quite wonderfully. Beautifully painted nails that also have a slight gloss to them. I think the coloration of the nails with that grayish color is perfect to contrast the rest of the body. I think that was a great choice as well. And just looking at the body in general, you can see like quite a bit of different color variation. It's not just one solid coloration of brown. There looks to be actually a few different variations of browns included, like lighter browns here, and then you can kind of see a little bit of a different coloration of brown right there. And there's also almost hints of green throughout as well, like you can see right here. Really cool as far as the color variation, giving it an incredibly realistic appearance. As you run down the back of the animal, you can see the spinal column take shape up here on the back, and really beautifully see the fur kind of hanging off of the body and really nicely sculpted. You can also get a sense of the fact that the animal is a bit beefy, really nicely sized stomach right here. So he's a bit of a chunker when it comes to a giant sloth, but that's probably what you would expect to find. You can see the hip bone right there, very nicely protruding through the fur and coming up out of the skin a little bit to just show you that it is there. Once again, you can get an idea of the bone structure of the rear leg as well, and also some of the fur kind of hanging off the body. You can take note to the different color variation as well as we run down into the feet. And there is the claw of the foot right there, really nicely painted, really beautifully sculpted. Even on the underside, you can see how nicely done that is. If we come back up here, you can see the tail that it is balancing itself on. It's kind of standing up maybe to reach up for a tree or something and grab a hold of it, something to eat. The underside of the tail also looks really well done as far as the sculpt. It just kind of gives you that feeling that he's just kind of squished his tail down onto the ground and he's using it now to balance. This side looks great also. You can again see the hip bone there, really nicely sculpted legs and the beautifully sculpted claw right there, and feet. As we run up here, you can see some loose fur there in the stomach region once again, and again in this arm, really nice hanging fur as we run down the length of the arm. Really nicely sculpted hands on this side as well. If we look at it from the underside of the hands, it's hard to get on there, but you can see that the palms of the hands appear to be painted with like a blackish color. Just like the bottom of the feet, you can see is painted with a blackish color, so a little bit of color variation there. You can come up here, you can see the shoulder blade, and again, just looking right there, you can really see a sense of the bone structure, almost pick up on like an elbow over here as well. And then the beautiful fur here kind of running down the neck really nicely, and the underside also sports some beautiful detailing as far as the fur detail in the stomach. Really, really beautiful looking giant sloth. Safari LTD absolutely knocked this straight out of the park. So as far as the size goes on our giant sloth, he's just a little over 4 inches or about 10 centimeters for a height, and there's not really too much else that I can measure on him because he's kind of only standing up tall. If we're going to go for a width, if we go like hip to hip, you're looking at maybe right around the 2-inch mark or about 5, maybe 5.5 centimeters. So there's not really too much going on as far as size aside from height. For a size comparison, there is the Safari LTD Boreal Pelta, and you can see in comparison to the Boreal Pelta, if you do in fact have this figure, that the Giant Sloth I would consider probably like a mid-sized Safari LTD figure. It is really, really beautifully sized. Honestly, I couldn't pick a better size for this Giant Sloth. And for another size comparison, we're going to bring in this. This is a blast from the past. This is an old Safari LTD Pachycephalosaurus from the 90s, so there's a chance that some of you might have this figure as well. And in comparison now to the Giant Sloth, if you have this Pachycephalosaurus, you should hopefully have an idea of around the size of the Giant Sloth. It's definitely really, really nicely sized. So Safari LTD totally nailed the Giant Sloth here. This is beautiful as far as not only the sculpt and detail, but the paint application as well. I'm really psyched that they decided to bring back this Giant Sloth and release a Giant Sloth figure at all, because if there's a prehistoric mammal that I think has been overlooked time and time again, it's the Giant Sloth. I don't know if people just don't think that there's interest in them, so they never produce figures of them or what, but I can assure you I'm interested, I love it, and I'm super happy to have one here from Safari LTD in my collection because it is an absolute beautiful figure. I really love prehistoric mammals, and anytime a company releases another prehistoric mammal, my eyes immediately light up with excitement because they just don't get very often figures made, and I don't know why, but specifically the Giant Sloth is probably one of the least made figures for sure. However, Safari LTD went ahead, took a chance on this Giant Sloth, and 100% knocked it out of the park. I think the sculpting of this is really well done. The fur detail looks great everywhere you look. I love the kind of saggy fur that you see on it. It gives you a sense of this kind of being a very shaggy Giant Sloth, and I think that they've sculpted out all the fur to perfection. The paint application is great as well because there are so many different variations of color included with different browns and even colorations of like greens and stuff included. The type of thing you wouldn't expect to work so well on a Giant Sloth, and it absolutely does. It really gives us a very flashy but very realistic appearance to it. The usage of gloss on the eyes and the mouth are so incredibly well done. It literally looks real as I sit here and stare at it. It generally looks like a real living animal's mouth, as do those eyes. They look very realistic, almost gives me the feeling that it's just staring at me and really soaking up all these kind words that I have to say about it. but honestly, it is a beautiful giant sloth figure. So if you want to buy one for yourself, head over right now to where I picked mine up at djenkins.com and place an order for this incredibly awesome giant sloth figure from Safari LTD. I will include a link in the description right now for you to do just that. Head over to Jenkins and order this giant sloth. So go ahead and do that, but before you do that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.